It's a full organizational unraveling happening in real time. Every layer you peel back reveals something more dysfunctional, more contradictory, more alarming than the last. And at the center of all of it sits Pete Carroll, scrambling to shift blame, leaking information to the media, pointing fingers at players and coordinators, and desperately trying to protect his own image while the team he was hired to lead continues to crumble beneath him. But the cracks in his narrative are finally showing, especially after the Chargers game exposed the truth he's been trying to hide. Because in that game something happened that didn't just raise an eyebrow, it exposed everything wrong with this staff. Caleb Rogers, the rookie who Carroll claimed was unplayable just 2.5 weeks ago, suddenly stepped onto the field and looked solid. Not elite, not perfect, but absolutely capable. He held his ground. He protected. He didn't implode. Against the Chargers' defensive front that destroys veteran linemen weekly, he gave up maybe one pressure, and even that came on a play where Gino Smith held the ball for an eternity. Rogers didn't look overwhelmed. He didn't look confused. He didn't look like a liability. He looked like someone who should have been on the field weeks ago. And that's where the problem begins. Because if Rogers could play this entire time, what does that say about the coaching staff evaluating him? What does it say about the leaked reports claiming he didn't understand basic assignments? Either Pete Carroll can't evaluate talent, or he lied to cover himself. And the way things have been unfolding, it feels more and more like both are true. The failure to give Rogers snaps earlier doesn't just reflect poor judgment. It's coaching malpractice. And it's not an isolated incident. It's a pattern. Even with Greg Olsen calling plays, the offense wasn't suddenly explosive or transformed, but it was functional. It was structured. It had rhythm. Something Chip Kelly's system never found. And that alone raises another uncomfortable question. Why is Pete Carroll rotating coordinators while refusing to adjust the real issues? Gino Smith continues melting down behind a collapsing offensive line, throwing another interception as if on schedule. Ashton Gentry can't find daylight because every run is swallowed the moment it begins. The veterans who were supposed to stabilize the team look exhausted, overwhelmed, and done. Yet the rookies, every time they touch the field, show flashes of hope, sparks of energy, signs of growth. The exact things Pete Carroll insisted they weren't ready to provide. And still here we are. The Chargers game wasn't close because the Raiders were competitive. It was close because the Chargers left the door open long enough for mistakes and chaos to keep things interesting. The tank crowd felt a little too nervous at halftime, hoping the final score aligned with the long-term plan. Lose games, secure a top pick, start the rebuild. Pete Carroll blamed the natural flow of the game afterward, insisting it wasn't talent or coaching but rhythm and momentum. But the excuses ring hollow. The truth is this roster is one of the worst in the league. The line is collapsing. The offense is scattered. The defense can't get off the field. The quarterback situation is a disaster. And yet, despite all that, the rookies are still the ones showing the heart and hunger missing from so many veterans. But the offensive line situation may finally be shifting in the right direction. With Rodgers proving he belongs and Charles Grant waiting in the wings, the future could actually look promising if handled correctly. DJ Glaze, Caleb Rogers, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Charles Grant, and Colton Miller could form a line that is dramatically stronger than the patchwork unit thrown together this season. And if the Raiders move on from Geno Smith, they'll have the cap space to invest heavily in the trenches, something this franchise has desperately needed for years. Then there's the wide receiver situation. Jack Beck continues to flash potential every time he gets a target, yet Tyler Lockett, who should be transitioning into a reduced role, continues to take snaps that should be going to the future of the team. It's maddening not because Lockett isn't respected, but because playing him now accomplishes nothing. It's protecting stat lines at the expense of development. And that is the theme of this entire season. Because the Raiders are stuck at a crossroads. They either go all in with Pete Carroll one more year, pretending the leaks, the excuses, the poor evaluations, and the regression don't matter, or they make the decision that everyone outside the building already sees as inevitable. Fire him. Reset the culture. Cut the dead weight. Start over with someone who doesn't panic, doesn't deflect blame, and doesn't sabotage his own roster through stubbornness and outdated philosophies. Once Carroll began leaking information to the media, the respect inside the building evaporated. Players notice. Veterans notice. And young stars like Brock Bowers, already frustrated by whispers that he's part of the problem, don't forget. It's only a matter of time before someone publicly calls it out, and the Raiders cannot afford that kind of fracture. Not again. So the conversation turns to who comes next. Joe Brady's name stands out as a bright, young offensive mind capable of building a modern system around a young quarterback. Mike Tomlin, maybe the most consistently respected coach in the league, is another possibility if he truly wants a change of scenery. Tomlin brings discipline, stability, and culture, something the Raiders haven't had in years. And that brings us to the looming questions hovering over this franchise. What happens next? Who leads this rebuild? Which rookies will become foundational pieces? And how much damage has been done by a coach who has spent the season protecting his reputation more than his players? The coming weeks will reveal everything. But one thing is certain, the Raiders can't move forward until they confront what's holding them back. If you enjoyed this deep dive breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Pete Carroll gets fired? Was Caleb Rogers proving the staff wrong the final straw? And which coach would you want leading this rebuild? Let me know below.